The night is quiet now. The world below has gone still, wrapped in its blanket of soft darkness. Only the faint hum of wind through the trees breaks the silence. And above it all, watching, constant, eternal, hangs the moon. It glows with that familiar silver light we've seen since childhood, gentle, comforting, a friend in the dark sky. But tonight, something about that glow feels different. It feels alive. They say the moon has no sound, no air, no echo. And yet, if you listen closely, in the hush between heartbeats, you might feel it, a low, distant vibration, like the faintest whisper through stone, a hum that seems to breathe through the night, as if the moon itself were dreaming. No telescope can hear it, no scientist has recorded it, but thousands have felt it, deep inside, when their thoughts are quiet, when their eyes linger too long on that pale face in the sky. You felt it too, haven't you? That strange, silent pull, like something calling your name from far away. Long ago, before history had words, our ancestors looked at that same moon and wondered the same thing. Who placed it there? Why does it never turn its face? And why does it watch us so faithfully every single night? Tonight, as the world sleeps, we'll follow that question deep into the mystery that hangs above us. The idea that the moon might not be a dead rock, but a living machine, a vast, ancient construct, placed in perfect orbit, watching the earth below, like a silent guardian or an endless observer. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the moon not as a sphere of dust and craters, but as something hollow, an immense shell of white metal, older than humanity, humming softly with a hidden pulse. Inside it, dark corridors stretch for miles, walls lined with strange machinery, lights that flicker without source, mechanisms turning slowly in the dark, as if keeping time itself alive. And within that silence, something listens. July 20th, 1969. The world held its breath. Millions watched as a silver craft descended toward the gray dust of the moon. Apollo 11, humanity's first step beyond Earth. But in those 2.5 minutes when all radio contact was lost, something else happened. Inside Neil Armstrong's headset, a whisper broke through the static, faint, urgent. "There are other ships here," he said quietly, his voice trembling. "They're watching us from the crater." The transmission was never released. The cameras stayed frozen, showing nothing but silence. When contact returned, Armstrong and Aldrin spoke calmly, as if nothing had occurred. They planted the flag. They smiled. They returned home. But those who met them afterward, the technicians, the doctors, the handlers, all said the same thing. They came back changed, as if they had seen something too vast, too impossible to explain. In the years that followed, fragments of that silence began to surface. Astronauts spoke in careful half-truths. Some said they'd heard strange music on the far side of the moon, a whistling rhythmic tone that echoed through their instruments. Others described flickering lights, geometric shadows that shouldn't exist in a place without atmosphere. NASA called it interference, static, coincidence. But those who listened to the recordings later, deep analysts, private researchers, found patterns in the sound, mathematical repetition, intentional rhythm, as if the noise wasn't random at all, but a signal coming from inside the moon. Long before Apollo, the ancient world had its own whispers. The Zulu tribes of Africa told stories of a time before the moon, when nights were truly dark, when chaos ruled the seas, and the sky was silent. Then one night, a great shining orb appeared in the heavens, pulled into place by beings from beyond the stars. They said it was not born, it was brought, and when it came, the tides calmed, the earth's rhythm began, life changed forever. Other cultures spoke the same way. The Arcadians of Greece claimed their ancestors were before the moon. The Sumerians wrote of gods who hung a lantern in the sky to watch over man. Different lands, different centuries, yet all telling of a moon that was placed, not born. Placed by whom, and for what purpose? Now, imagine for a moment that those old myths weren't poetry at all, but memory that humanity carries within its oldest stories, a truth we've long forgotten, that the moon isn't a natural satellite, but a creation, a hollow machine, a watcher, a structure so immense and ancient that even time has forgotten who built it. Somewhere deep inside its metallic heart, there might be chambers still humming, machines that haven't stopped turning for millions of years, sensors that record everything we do, everything we build, everything we become, and maybe someone or something still listening from within. If so, then the moon doesn't simply reflect sunlight, it reflects attention. It looks back. Now, breathe slowly. Imagine you're drifting through space, silent, weightless, watching that glowing sphere grow larger before your eyes. The craters look familiar, but as you draw closer, they change. Edges sharpen, lines straighten. What you thought were natural ridges begin to form patterns. Geometric, deliberate. You touch down softly on the gray dust. There's no sound but your own breathing. You look around and realize something unsettling. Every crater edge aligns perfectly, as if drawn by design. Every shadow seems measured, and beneath your boots the ground feels hollow. You strike it with a metal rod, and it echoes, not a dull thud, a clear, resonant ring, like a bell. That's not imagination, that's real. It happened during Apollo 12, when the astronauts crashed a spent module onto the lunar surface. The impact made the moon ring like a bell for nearly an hour. Vibrations traveled through it as if through a shell, not a solid body. NASA's own records confirmed it, but they didn't linger on the result. Just a footnote, a small, unsettling truth quietly archived. So, what is the moon? A rock? A relic? A machine? No one can say for sure, but the coincidences are endless. Its orbit, impossibly perfect. Its distance from Earth, just enough to cause total eclipses that align the sun and moon in exact proportion. Its size, precisely what's needed to stabilize Earth's tilt, giving us seasons, tides, and life itself. Almost as if someone calculated it. Almost as if the moon was built to keep Earth alive, or to keep watch over it. And so, each night when you look up at that calm, glowing sphere, remember, you are looking at the oldest mystery we've ever known. It has seen every generation, every rise and fall of civilization. It has watched kings and wanderers. Part 2, the hollow heart of the moon. The hum is still there. If you quiet your breath and let the soundless rhythm of night settle around you, you can almost feel it again, a pulse beneath the silver surface. Not loud, not mechanical, just a slow, steady thrum, as if the moon itself were breathing in the cold vacuum of space. For centuries, that breath has carried through myths and measurements alike. The ancients whispered of it in stories. The scientists caught it on their seismographs. Each echo said the same thing. The moon rings when struck. November 20th, 1969, Apollo 12's mission was ending. Two astronauts, Pete Conrad and Alan Bean, prepared to leave the sea of storms. Before departing, they performed one final experiment. They let the empty lunar module crash back onto the surface. A dull impact should have faded in seconds. Instead, the moon sang. Seismic instruments recorded vibrations that rippled for almost an hour. Not random tremors, but harmonics. Frequencies that repeated, layered like the chords of a bell, tolling across a cathedral too large for human scale. NASA's report called it a ringing resonance. The words were clinical, but to those who listened to the playback, it sounded alive. Imagine standing there, boots half buried in gray dust, feeling that vibration climb through your body. You strike the ground, and the echo answers back, deep and metallic. What would you think in that moment? Would you wonder whether you were standing on a world or inside a vast hollow shell? That idea haunted the engineers who studied the data. They tried to explain it. Perhaps layers of fractured rock, perhaps empty caverns left by ancient impacts. But each model failed. The resonance was too pure, too deliberate. When Apollo 13's booster stage later hit the moon, the bell rang again, longer, louder, nearly 3 hours this time. It was as if the entire body of the moon vibrated in sympathy, like a gong announcing itself to the universe. What could cause that? A natural world would scatter the energy, absorb it into chaos. But this one focused it, held it, sang it back. Decades earlier, in 1963, NASA physicist Gordon MacDonald noted the moon's strange density. If it were a solid sphere of stone, it should weigh more. Its mass was wrong, too light by billions of tons. He wrote, "It is more easily explained if the moon is hollow inside." His words sat quietly in a scientific journal, ignored by most, preserved by a few. Then, in 1970, two Soviet researchers, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, proposed something audacious. They called it the spaceship moon hypothesis. They suggested the moon was not born of Earth, nor captured by accident. It was placed there, an ancient vessel disguised in rock, built by an intelligence older than humanity. They imagined colossal engines hidden beneath a shell of dust, compartments filled with machinery, even observation decks behind sealed layers of metal. A machine turned moon, a moon turned mirror. The world laughed, but the laughter faded when the data kept whispering the same note, ringing, hollow, resonant. Look again at its orbit, perfectly circular, so balanced that it stabilizes Earth's wobble, giving us seasons, tides, even the delicate rhythm of climate that allows life to thrive. Statistically, it should be eccentric, off-center, drifting through gravitational tides. But it isn't. It sits exactly where it must to keep Earth steady. Coincidence or calibration, the odds are staggering. Every parameter, size, distance, angle, fits too neatly, like a key in a cosmic lock. And when the sun hides behind it during an eclipse, their disks match so perfectly that the moon blots the sun in a flawless circle of fire. No other planet-moon pair in our system does this. Not one. If the universe is chaos, the moon is order, and order implies design. Close your eyes. Picture drifting beneath the lunar crust. No air, no sound, only dark corridors stretching for miles. Walls smooth as glass, etched with patterns older than memory. Beams of pale light flicker in the distance, like nervous heartbeats of a sleeping mind. There, in the stillness, you sense vast chambers, hollow lungs of this ancient machine. Somewhere far below, slow machinery turns, gears that haven't stopped for billions of years. Perhaps they measure gravity. Perhaps they record the heartbeat of every living thing that walks beneath their orbit. You pass through a tunnel lined with what looks like black crystal. It hums softly, almost welcoming. As you glide your hand along its surface, faint symbols appear, geometry that feels both alien and familiar, triangles within circles, spirals within eyes. It feels as if the structure itself recognizes you, or the species you represent. Then you remember something strange. The moon always shows the same face. It never turns away. It hides one side, the far side, completely from Earth, forever, as if shielding its secrets. When Apollo 10 first orbited that hidden half, the crew recorded that eerie space music. Whistles, tones, like someone tuning an instrument in the dark. They joked nervously about it. But years later, when those tapes were declassified, the sound was still haunting. A pattern of rhythm, repeating every few seconds, far too structured to be random interference. What if those sounds were not radio noise, but communication? What if the moon was responding to them, singing back, testing the resonance of their arrival? It's a delicate thought, the idea that something so vast, so silent, might notice our presence, but perhaps that is exactly what it was built to do. Ancient stories echo this idea like ripples of memory. The Dogon people of Mali say the moon was brought by star beings, called the Nomo, who descended from the heavens to stabilize the earth. The Chinese myths speak of a jade disk forged by celestial artisans to balance yin and yang. The Mayans called it the Eye of Ixchel, the Watcher. Different tongues, same pattern. A construct of balance and observation. Maybe those ancient voices were not superstition, but fragments of truth passed through dream and ritual. Maybe the builders left behind more than a machine. Maybe they left a presence. Breathe in slowly. Feel how every exhale seems to drift upward toward that silver circle in the sky. It pulls at oceans, at tides, at blood. It pulls at you too, quietly, invisibly. The moon is not just above us. It's within us. Every cycle of sleep and wake, every rhythm of heart and hormone dances to its gravity. If it were a machine, then we are part of its system. Tiny gears turning in sync with a cosmic engine. And perhaps that's why it watches so silently, because it doesn't need to speak. Its purpose is already fulfilled, to keep us moving, breathing. NASA released the image briefly, and then withdrew it. The explanation, light distortion. But those who had saved the original prints said the geometry was unmistakable. Close your eyes and imagine walking among those spires. The ground beneath you glows faintly, lit not by sunlight, but by some buried luminescence. The air, or what passes for it, hums softly like static trapped in time. You look up at the nearest tower, smooth, metallic, its surface patterned with a repeating grid. At its base, a circular opening, wide enough for a human or something larger. You step closer. Inside, the light changes. The walls seem to bend and shimmer, as though they are responding to your movement. Symbols glow briefly, lines that form the same geometry seen from orbit. Triangles, circles, spirals. They pulse once, then vanish. It feels as if the structure itself is alive, aware of you, watching you. Many who've studied lunar anomalies believe these structures are not new. They may predate humanity. Some even say the moon itself was once part of a much older civilization, a vessel built long before Earth formed life. Theorists like Richard Hoagland, a former NASA consultant, spoke of glass domes and ruins scattered across the lunar surface. He believed the moon was once an outpost, maybe a station built to observe the early Earth. He claimed that NASA knew and quietly removed or blurred evidence from the public archives. And then there are the voices from within NASA itself, quiet confessions from engineers, analysts, and technicians who handled the raw data. A few have said under anonymity that they saw photographs that were airbrushed before release, images of angular shadows, towers, even grid-like formations on the far side. When asked why they would hide such things, the answer was simple: the world isn't ready. But these theories didn't start with Apollo. They began thousands of years ago, in the oldest stories humanity ever told. The Sumerians, who carved their histories into clay long before the pyramids rose, spoke of the Anunnaki, star gods who descended to Earth to shape humankind. They described them as beings who traveled in great celestial boats and watched the Earth from above. In their language, the moon was called Nanar's throne, the place from which the gods observed and judged the world below. Across the ocean in ancient Egypt, the moon was linked to Thoth, the god of wisdom, the measurer of time, the one who recorded all deeds. His temple carvings show him holding a crescent disk that glows with lines like circuitry. He was said to sit in the ship of millions of years, sailing across the night sky, a vessel of divine observation. In the Andes, the Inca told of Mama Quilla, the moon mother, whose silver eye watched all who lived beneath the sun. She did not shine on her own, they said. She reflected the light of the gods. She recorded everything they saw, different ages, different worlds, one pattern: the moon as the watcher, the recorder, the great eye in the sky. What if those myths were fragments of a collective memory, passed through generations not as fiction, but as remembrance? Perhaps the builders of the moon were the same beings those civilizations worshipped, not gods in robes of fire, but engineers of a scale beyond comprehension, architects who built planets like sculptures, who shaped moons into machines. Imagine them, tall, luminous forms, moving through the void with effortless grace. Their hands, or whatever served as hands, weaving metal and light into orbits, crafting perfect circles around newborn worlds. To them, a moon was not an accident of gravity. It was a design, a stabilizer, a laboratory, a mirror, and perhaps an eye, one that could look upon its creation and never blink. Breathe slowly again. Feel the air move in and out, rhythm steady, quiet. The moon's pull on your body is real, its gravity tugging faintly at the water in your cells. You are, in some sense, connected to it, not just by sight, but by physics, by motion, by design. If it truly is a machine, then you are part of what it observes, a piece of its purpose, a heartbeat in its long, unending watch. And maybe that's why we've always been drawn to it, why poets write of its glow, why lovers swear oaths beneath it, why dreamers stare up and feel both small and infinite. Something in us recognizes it, not as a stranger, but as something that has always been with us, something that remembers. When the China's Chang'e 4 mission landed on the far side in 2019, it sent back images unlike any before. Among the ordinary stones and dust, scientists found something peculiar, a strange gel-like substance that shimmered under the rover's light. They said it was glass formed by a meteor impact, but others saw it differently. They said it looked manufactured, artificial, as if melted metal or polymer had once flowed there and cooled. No one has offered a clear explanation. The data remains incomplete, the samples unreleased, but the shape, the texture, it matched what one would expect from material heated by intense energy, like a machine's inner core exposed to the elements. Could that be a wound? A scar in the moon's metallic skin? And so, the far side remains a mystery, the dark face that hides all secrets. We see only what it allows us to see. We measure, no volcano could forge them, no impact could preserve them. Where did they come from? Who put them there? The numbers whisper an unsettling answer. The moon might not have formed after Earth. It might have arrived before. A silent visitor waiting for life to appear, waiting for us. As centuries passed, humans grew used to its glow. We wrote poems to it, prayed beneath it, measured time by its phases. We called it goddess, god, mirror, and clock. But in our worship, perhaps we missed the most obvious truth, that the moon has never stopped looking back. Even now its orbit adjusts subtly, as though compensating for Earth's drift. Its pull affects not just the oceans, but the very rhythm of our sleep, our hormones, our thoughts. Every cycle of life moves in sync with that distant machine, and maybe that is its purpose. Not to interfere, but to guide from afar, to ensure that life continues exactly as it was meant to. There's an old legend from Central America, the story of the Silver Sentinel. It says that once the moon fell ill. For 3 nights it vanished from the sky, and during that time the earth trembled with the storms and quakes. When it returned, the people rejoiced, saying, "The watcher has awakened again." They believed the moon held the memory of the world, that when it closed its eye, chaos returned. When it opened it again, balance was restored. Perhaps that story was never about gods at all. Perhaps it was about systems, ancient, perfect, and still operating. The moon, like a guardian program, resetting the equilibrium whenever the earth begins to falter. And if that's true, then what happens when it finally stops watching? Maybe that's why we've never heard a signal from deep space. Maybe the watcher keeps us isolated, preserving us in silence until we are ready to join whatever waits beyond. Maybe the moon is both cage and caretaker, both machine and mother, both question and answer. And maybe it's been waiting for us to understand that all along. Breathe slowly. Look up at that pale glow outside your window tonight. Every story, every myth, every number points back to that same silver face, the light that never dies, the machine that never sleeps. It has been with us from the first breath of life to the final heartbeat of every civilization. And even when the last city fades, the moon will still be there, calm, patient, luminous, watching, not as a god, not as an enemy, but as something that remembers us even when we forget ourselves. Part 5. The Silent Watcher. The night is almost over now. The stars have dimmed to soft embers. Somewhere on the edge of dawn, the moon still floats, pale and eternal, guarding the world it has known longer than memory. It has seen everything: the birth of oceans, the rise and fall of empires, the first spark of human fire, the last breath of forgotten kings. Every dream ever dreamed beneath its glow has passed before that silent gaze. And yet, it says nothing, no message, no movement, just that quiet, constant presence, as though its very silence is the language of the universe itself. If the moon truly is a machine, it is not a machine of wires and gears. It is something older, something more elegant, a machine of harmony and gravity, of balance and time. Its mechanism is the rhythm of the seas, the pulse of the planet, the gentle order that allows life to endure. It turns the chaos of creation into music, and we are part of that song. Every heartbeat, every tide, every cycle of sleep and waking, all of it moving in perfect coordination with that pale sphere above. We are not separate from it. We are written into its design. Think of how it always shows one face, never turning away, never revealing the other half. That is how guardians behave, watching quietly, revealing nothing, always there, yet never intruding. The moon may be the greatest paradox in the universe, both impossibly close and eternally distant, both lifeless and full of life's reflection. It does not judge, it simply observes. Maybe that is what we were meant to learn from it, that true wisdom lies not in control, but in quiet observation, not in conquering the heavens, but in understanding our place within them. Imagine now drifting high above the earth, weightless, surrounded by the black velvet of space. The world below glows blue and white, spinning slowly, fragile and perfect. Beside it, the moon hangs, like a lamp of silver glass, its light touching the planet's edge. For the first time, you can see both together, parent and child, twin reflections of one story, and in that silence between them, you feel it again, that faint hum, that gentle resonance that has never stopped since the beginning of time. It isn't just sound, it's memory. The moon remembers the moment it was placed there. It remembers the builders, their touch, their intention, their final silence. It remembers the first creatures that looked up and wondered. It remembers you. Some say that when we sleep beneath its light, our dreams travel there, that the moon collects them, one by one, storing the echoes of every human life in chambers of silver dust. Perhaps that's why moonlight feels different from any other light, because it carries the weight of every story ever lived. And maybe that is why it watches, not as a warden, but as a witness, because stories, like stars, need witnesses to exist. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and your breath slows, let that thought settle deep inside you. You are part of something vast and ancient, a rhythm that began before time, still unfolding above your head. The moon is there, patient as ever, tracing its perfect orbit through the darkness. It watches, but not to judge. It watches to remember. It watches because that is its nature, to reflect light, to reflect life, to remind us that even in darkness, something is always shining. And maybe, long after the last city's lights have faded, when the oceans are quiet and the stars burn low, the moon will still hang there, the final witness of a world it once nurtured. It will remember the laughter of children, the rise of